Round 9 saw one of the best sets of games in 2025. The highest winning margin was just 35 points, and the last 6 games were still wide open with only a few minutes left. To cap it off, we also got our first draw of the season. But some of those in the media have recently questioned something of note. Is the top 8 already set? In a recent article in the Herald Sun, which asked this question to 7 writers, 6 of them answered yes. Only a third of the way through the season, this normally seems a big call, but looking closer at the ladder, it might be right. In the 18-team era, only twice has the composition of the top 8 changed after round 9. If the current 8 do stay in place for the rest of 2025, it might make the rest of the home and away season a bit boring. So let's have a look at the ladder. You would think Brisbane and Collingwood are going nowhere. Both have had difficult early fixtures, and both have experienced players who have gone deep into finals for multiple seasons. Hawthorn are going okay, which sounds ridiculous at 7 wins and 2 losses, but they haven't yet hit their straps and do have a tricky next 6 weeks, but you would think they would be in finals. Gold Coast and Adelaide both have great home ground advantages and really only need to win about 40% of their away games from this point onwards to get in. The Bulldogs and Giants have both travelled a lot in this first part of the season and been hit with injury. The Dogs fixture opens up after the bye with plenty of games at Marvel, and the Giants in the back half of the year also return home much more. Then there is Geelong, who basically play finals every year, but do need some of their defenders to regain health and continuity. Overall, it's a solid group of 8 teams that have all played very well so far. But more importantly, who can replace either one of these 8 if they drop out? Can Essendon? They have improved dramatically in defence and are doing so with injuries, but they are still a very young team. All 5 of their wins have come against 5 of the bottom 6 teams, not that that is their fault, so in some ways it's still hard to get a full read on them. Carlton and Fremantle kind of sit together. When they are on, they look great, but slow starts have put pressure on them. The Dockers percentage of 95 is also a problem, as it realistically means they are 2 games behind those sides at the bottom of the top 8. The Blues are probably the best chance out of everyone in the bottom 10, as they still have a strong percentage, and despite a slow start, are just a single game out. The 3 teams mentioned are probably the only 3 teams that can get in. Port Adelaide are wildly up and down, Sydney still have so many key injuries, and St Kilda probably just isn't good enough. And again, one of the current top 8 will need to fall away significantly to vacate a spot. Right now, the top 8 is looking set. But I'm sure people said this last year, so let's go back 12 months ago and have a look. At the end of round 9 2024, 3 of the then top 8 sides would drop out. Surprisingly, 2 of them were actually in the top 4, in Essendon and Melbourne, while 8th in Collingwood would also fall out. The Pies struggled with injury in the back half of 2024 and still won 12 games, which is no disgrace. Perhaps overall, they just weren't quite as hungry as the season before and simply not as good. Essendon after round 11 were actually 2nd with 8 wins, but a difficult fixture in the back half of the season and a form drop-off did see the club win 3 games from that point onwards. Then there was Melbourne, whose off-field problems bubbled to the surface, and without Christian Petrarca after King's birthday, they fell right off. So really, there are only a few things that can cause a team currently in the 8 to fall out. The first being a softer draw in the first part of the season, which might have played to Gold Coast and Hawthorn, who have played a lot of the bottom clubs already. Injuries can also build up, and that might be a watch for Geelong, especially in their defence. The Bulldogs, who are still without Sam Darcy, Adam Treloar, and now Cody Waitman for the season, and GWS, who are still a bit light on in the midfield. Now the potential drop-off of form is hard to see right now, but we can use some team stats and ratings to see if any of the win-loss records right now are not painting the full picture. Let's start with the turnover game. It is still the number 1 score source in the competition, and the premiers and grand finalists from 2017 have all been at least top 4 in turnover scoring differential. If you can defend when you turn it over and score when you turn it over the best, it normally leads to a deep finals run. So far, 6 of the top 8 are in the top 8 for turnover differential. The 2 out of it are Geelong, who have a 0.2 differential, and the Western Bulldogs, who have a minus 0.2 turnover differential. In their places in this stat are Carlton and Sydney, but there is a clear top 3 in the all-important turnover game right now. It's Adelaide with a huge plus 20 differential, followed by Collingwood with plus 19 and the Gold Coast Suns with plus 17. It's no surprise all these teams, at their best, are slick with ball in hand and are high scoring offences. Now 2025 has been a little bit unique so far, as stoppage scoring has been slightly increased, and that's where the Bulldogs and Geelong have made up for their points, but you would think by the end of the year both of those teams will need to increase their turnover game output. And the final stat that can give a clearer picture on where teams sit is the expected score difference. This takes into account a team's ability to convert their own chances and how their opposition kicks a goal in game. It's twofold. A team can, for example, kick 10 points better than expected and their opponents 10 points worse, which would give them a plus 20 in the expected score difference. So far in 2005, there is a clear top 2. The Western Bulldogs on average have a plus 10.3 expected score per game, and second is Adelaide, who are just behind them with 9.9. It is interesting to see Gold Coast, Collingwood and Brisbane all with minus expected score differentials. Now this doesn't necessarily mean the Bulldogs and Adelaide have been lucky that their opponents have kicked poorly in front of goal, as it does take into account their own conversion rates. But even with all this, it's still hard to see the top 8 changing for now. The top 4 seem pretty solid, and even the bottom of the 8 have things in their favour, such as plenty of home games and easier draws in the back end of the season. But we all know it doesn't take a lot for things to drastically change. An injury here and there, an off-field incident and form drop-offs are all still very real possibilities. All those outside the 8 can do is keep winning and hope that one of these teams drop off the pace.